The story that is dominating the news cycle is something that I wanted to comment on days ago, but I've been praying about it and I just wanted to wait and, out of respect for the family, make this video. There's something they're not talking about, and I think they're going out of their way to not talk about it, that is directly related to something that was said by Savannah Guthrie herself. Now, those of you who don't know what we're talking about, if you haven't been watching TV for a week, the mother of, I believe, Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie went missing, and initially the local police went out there and they looked around and said, well, no real evidence of a crime scene. So then they released the scene back to the family, and then a day later they come running back out there with dogs and taping it off and all this kind of stuff. It has been a squirrely story, but when you listen to what Savannah Guthrie actually said the first time, I think she gave away the game. And this is what they don't want you to know about. There are some things money cannot buy. Now, real quick, before we get into this, God bless all of you who've joined us, Florida Monkey Patreon channel. This direction of our Patreon channel is to get people out of their emotional self and restore them to a thinking status so that they're not just consulting their feelings to come to a conclusion about things. Now, it's an awful story. I mean, prayers to the family, prayers to all of those who are missing this elderly woman. I mean, no disrespect by what I'm going to say, but to solve this, to fix this, you cannot have any emotions about it. Now, if you'd like to join us, Florida Monkey Patreon channel, get written in on that kind of stuff. Love to have you over there. 4 levels. Best part is, if it's not for you or you don't think it's as advertised, fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. Once again, God bless all of you who are over there. Let's get right to it. Let's get right to the basis of it, folks. This is and I'm not blaming Mr. Trump here, for those of you who think I am. All of this deportation stuff, all of these people who've been sent back, they were here serving a purpose. And that purpose is, in a lot of cases, rightfully so, somewhat nefarious. One of the big things that the illegal traffic brought to that part of the country was a source of pain relief, a source of drugs. Now, before anybody says that, I'm not accusing her mother of being involved in any kind of illicit drug trade, but there are those down there who are, and now there's a shortage. Now there's a massive shortage of drugs. Now, Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Savannah Guthrie, in her first plea to the captors, said the woman lives in constant pain. Now, a lot of 84-year-olds have problems and have issues and some level of pain, but she said the woman lived in constant pain, needed a cane, couldn't walk 50 feet on her own. Now, if she's not in palliative care, which is end-of-life care, where they just give you as much pain med as you want, that house was likely stocked. If what she said was true, and this woman was living in constant pain, that house was likely stocked to the rafters with Dilaudid, with liquid Vicodin, with oxycodone, with all of that kind of stuff. People are saying, what could make this woman a target? It's money. What could make this woman a target? It's money. There are things you can't buy with money. And, well, I mean, you could illegally, but now that that's gone, you have to look to other sources. And the reason this woman likely got targeted was because she likely had a house full of things that you could not get anywhere else. How many of you ever seen the series Nurse Jackie? People who are deprived, people who get addicted to this stuff. And I speak of this because I've had family members, guys I knew in the military, loved ones. I have watched this show go on before. They get in another place mentally after a certain amount of time of being an addict. There is nothing you will not do to get what you need. You will rationalize every possible act people do some of the most horrific, awful, terrible things, and they are just happy as clams doing it because they have their fix. And I'm just going to say, anything you hear from this point forward out of the government, I think they know this. Here's the problem that I think happened. They released the scene, and folks, it's not my statistics I'm making up. I heard this today, and it's somebody who was in the know. 0.2% of kidnappings annually occur with someone in this age range. It is an exceedingly rare thing that someone this age gets picked up for kidnapping or some type of a ransom. And this idiocy going on with, they had the ransom and they sent it to TMZ and these news stations, but they didn't, have any way of meeting. And here's the question I'm going to ask. The family's come out now twice and said proof of life, proof of life, proof of life. Would you not still pay the ransom for the remains of your loved one? Oh, yeah. People are like, oh, no kidding. See, even if she is passed on by now, for lack of medication or she was roughed up or for whatever reason, would you not still pay the ransom so that you can have the remains of your loved ones back, so that you can give them a proper burial? Of course you would. So it doesn't matter whether she's alive or not. I mean, it matters in the sense that, pray God she is. But in the context of ransom, it means nothing. Because even if they come back and said, well, she was for a while, but we did what we could, and then something happened, and if there was a communication with these alleged captors, and all we have now is the remains, you'd still pay the ransom. Let me see if I can find it here. And this goes back, and I know this seems like it's irrelevant, but it's relevant. John, the book of John in the New Testament, 5:28-29 says, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice and shall come forth, that they have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of the damned. The reason I read this scripture is because for a long time, why do you think there are these big giant gates and steel spiked fences around Jewish cemeteries? Because when they would bury their loved ones, they would put gold and money and silver and jewelry into the coffins. They became targets, not just for grave robbers, but they would literally take the entire grave and then hold the remains ransom and say, look, if you want the remains of your loved ones back, we want this, and this. And they would pay huge sums because in the Jewish belief, now, I'm not saying that these people are Jewish, but necessarily the idea of a loved one being returned alive or the remains of a loved one being returned, virtually no difference in what you would be willing to do to have that happen. Ask any of those who had been lost in Vietnam. Maybe that would have been a better example. That were disappeared in Vietnam and nobody knew about their remains. They would have done anything to have those remains back. Anything at all. This, I promise you, at this point now, after 6 days, this was about drugs. Savannah Guthrie said her mom lived in constant pain. If her mom lived in constant pain, it is very, very likely, and I guarantee if she was the daughter of Savannah Guthrie, she didn't have the bronze plan of Obamacare. I'm guaranteed she had the super, triple, extra special platinum plan that allowed for virtually any prescription for virtually nothing, or even if it didn't, that she would have stockpiles upon stockpiles of pain meds. And those you cannot walk into a pharmacy and just say, hey, I want 90 full strength Percocets and hand me over 30 Roxys. You can't for any money. And those people become desperate. And they're more desperate now because millions have been deported, a lot of criminals, a lot of guys who are running this stuff. And then people are desperate and trying to find other sources. And that's the thing. Because of the shortage now, the price of those things has become astronomical out there. So there's a lot of money in it, even if you've never touched the stuff. You could get somebody 300 or 400 Roxy's, or, 4 or 5 bottles of liquid Percocet, oh, the people would pay unending amounts of money for that stuff. And not just, street people. There are regular everyday folks that need that stuff. So from this point forward, be very suspect about what you hear from the media on this, because them going in and just doing a cursory look around, oop, can't find anything, and then releasing it back to the family, folks, that's just not how it's done. Then they go back in, the feds come back in and rush back in with dogs and with all sorts of other things to look for it. It's contaminated now, and there's nothing that can be done. And once again, I'll ask the question, why would proof of life matter? It wouldn't matter to me if it was my loved one. I mean, pray for these people. I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. Pray for these people. Seriously. I can't imagine a more horrific thing. But if it was my loved ones, I would say, look, at this point, alive, wonderful. Here's your ransom money. If they're not alive, wonderful. Here's your ransom money. Just bring them back to us. Just like with the issue in Israel, when all of those people were taken captive. October 7th attacks, remember? And they were trying to get them back. It didn't matter. I mean, it mattered in the sense that they will hope beyond hope that they were alive. But if they weren't alive, they still wanted the remains back, and they fought for every set of remains, right down to the last individual, as it would be for anyone. So, from the police perspective, they're probably trying to, make what they put out in the media seem as palatable as possible. But in this particular case, I'm telling you right now, this is a story I've seen before. Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the correct one. And there's just about only one thing I can imagine an 84-year-old woman who's living in constant pain would be targeted for, especially out there. So, I will leave it there. God bless. Thank you guys so much for being members of Patreon. Very much appreciate it. Could very, very much use the help these days. I just busted my knee. I'm not going to be laid up here for probably about 2 weeks in recovery, so I could use, some help. I'll be very honest with you. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.